There is so much information out there of what to do, and everybody is telling you that you should be doing this and you should be doing that. But the truth of the matter is you should really pick a few things that you can do really well and go all in on those things. Podcast Growth Nation. Today, for episode number 162, why less is probably more for you right now. We have our 19th round of group coaching started, and we are, I think, 4 calls in. And on the last call, which was a connection session, we just show up and we answer questions, and we want to make sure everybody feels supported and guided, and if they feel stuck anywhere, we address that on those calls. And I said, just from a place of awareness, just so we can customize this program even more, as a podcaster, where are you struggling the most right now? And almost everybody said time and organization. And to me, the time is, how do I do everything? And I think the organization also is that. How do I find a way to organize everything so I actually have enough time to do everything? And we went very deep into a bunch of different things on this call. But one of the things that I added that I want to go deep into today is you most likely are trying to do 50 different things, and you're most likely doing 47 of them not very well. And those 47 are really affecting the 3 that you're doing decently. So you've heard me say this before, and this is a principle in personal development, in success, in productivity, and all those things. There's a drastic difference between realistic and ideal. Yes, ideally, you would be posting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, bing, 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 all the places. You'd be posting everywhere. And ideally, every single piece of content would be different, catered for that platform with specific hashtags. Everything would be different. And ideally, you'd be posting on YouTube, and it would have a cold open, and it would have text and music and zooms and pans and all of that stuff. Yes, ideally, all of that would be getting done. Realistically, where are you going to get the best return on your time? So maybe you've heard of this before, but if not, I don't want to assume you have. There is something called the Pareto principle. How true this is, I don't know, but it's not necessarily a law, but it's pretty close to a law. Evidently, back in the day, a long time ago, there was a gentleman, I believe his name was Wilfredo Pareto. It's a rough name, but that was his name. He planted a bunch of pea plants, and he realized that 20% of the pea plants produced 80% of the peas. So you just remember 2 numbers, 20% and 80%. And if we run that out to other statistics, think of it this way. 20% of the people in the United States drink 80% of the beer. 20% of the people make 80% of the money. That really is the kind of the way it's framed. 20% of the podcasts get 80% of the listens. Now, again, I don't know the exact science behind that. I don't know why it's that way. It's just a data thing. And is it that way across everything? I don't know. But from this perspective, here's the thought. What is the 20% effort that will get you 80% results? If you're just starting your podcast, you probably don't need a blog yet. If you're just starting your podcast, maybe you don't need an email list yet. But what you probably need to do is focus on building relationships through the podcast and through social media. If you're just starting out, let's say you're 100 episodes in, you don't have to focus on live events yet. It's maybe not time. So my challenge to you would be, what are the 3 things that I can put 20% of my effort into that will get me 80% of the results? Now, when I say 20% of the effort, I don't mean taking it easy. I mean, those are the things that you're doing in your 20%. So 1 is going to be the podcast. If you're a podcaster, you got to do podcast episodes. Cool. That's 1. One of the reasons I am so pissed off right now from the Next Level University perspective is we just are so overwhelmed that we're not putting as much time into the podcast episodes as I want. And I will be very, very honest about that. Now, in a lot of ways, it's a good problem to have because we're overwhelmed with opportunities in business, and that's great. But the podcast is the 20% that has created 80% of the results. So we cannot ever lose sight of that. You can think of it from a relationship perspective. there's 20% of the things that I can do for my wife that will bring 80% of the results. She doesn't care about certain things. She cares a lot about other things. Don't focus on the things she doesn't care about and quadruple down on the things that she does. And you're most likely going to end up in a pretty good place. Business, podcasting, that's all kind of the same. I'm willing to bet that 20% of your clients will give you 80% of your revenue. Dangerous game to play, but that's just another example of it. So my challenge to you is to figure out what those things are. It's definitely going to be the podcast. So that's going to be a thing. If you are at a place where you're trying to increase your thought leadership and you're trying to be seen as an expert in something, you guesting on other podcasts, that might be it. And then the third thing might be creating content on social media. Whether that's repurposing stuff, whether that's coming up with native stuff, cool ideas, entertaining content, whatever it is, those might be your big three. Well, Kev, how do I get my weekly email out? Maybe you don't yet. Maybe you start with a monthly one. Maybe you start with a quarterly one. And then as that becomes sustainable, then you can do it consistently and then you can focus on improvement. So this is the 3 steps that we need to go through. 1, sustainability. Start from a place that you can actually do. If you can't do a weekly email, there's 2 options. Either we don't do any or we do what's sustainable. Is every other week sustainable? No, it's not. Okay, cool. No worries. What about monthly? Honestly, maybe, but I feel like that's pushing it. All right, cool. Let's do a quarterly email for a year. Easy peasy. Done. Then maybe next year you do monthly. And then you continue to create a more sustainable pace. I wouldn't worry about it yet. And I know it's again, I'm the guy telling you to do this, and this. Here's where self-awareness, here's where self-preservation, here's where boundaries, here's where self-care come in. You have to bite off a piece that you can actually chew. Don't compare to what other people are doing necessarily. You can compare from a place of aspiration, but don't compare from a place of making yourself feel bad. I might do 15 episodes this week. That doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean it's sustainable for you, because it probably isn't. Not in the same way it's sustainable for me, right? That's just like you might run 15 miles today. I am not running 15 miles. That's not sustainable for me yet. I'm not a runner. I like heavy squats and lifting heavy weight. That's my jam. So my challenge to you would be, let's find the 3. Now, I can tell you, from my perspective at least, and from the mistakes that I have made, one of them probably should be forever connecting with your audience. So you have heard me talk so many times about creating opportunities to self-identify. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, join the Facebook group. The reason the Facebook group is a thing is because people can self-identify. Where did you hear about us? From the podcast? Cool, you're a podcast listener. Awesome. Now, I think what a lot of people assume is now I'm going to go try to sell them something. No, now you start a conversation with them. And if you have other things, maybe you have a book club like we do. I'm not saying to do that, just as an example. Oh, hey, I noticed you just recently joined our Facebook group. Thank you so much. We love to have you. If you're somebody who is into growth and you want to take a deeper dive, we have a book club every week. Totally free. No strings attached. Boom. That person might end up moving down, right? So for us, one of the things that I think set us apart from other podcasts, many other podcasts, is we were obsessed with getting to know our audience, and we were jumping on Zoom, FaceTime calls before we were using Zoom, texting our listeners. So somebody would comment on my Instagram story. I would message them back and say, hey, I didn't realize you listened to the podcast. It's nice to meet you. What did you learn, or what are you going through, or is there anything you'd like to hear us talk about? And then we would get a conversation going. And then eventually I would say, hey, I'd love to jump on a call with you so I can get to know you better, because I think that would help us make better content. And I got so much information, and I realized what our audience was struggling with, and it just gave me so many cheat codes that then we could talk about on the podcast. That's something we stopped doing probably 5 years in, 6 years in, and we've really doubled down on that. Doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on that. And that's something that we're really trying to do today. And I do that with podcasters. I do free calls with podcasters. I think people assume that's all about making money and it's all about sales, and it's not. So much of it is about getting the common problems that people are struggling with. That's one. And then 2, I'm meeting people in the community. So now I know people and I can invite people to the Facebook group or whatever it may be, or ask them for feedback or whatever. That is one of the keys.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hurwitz. So last year I wanted to quit everything. I wanted to throw in the towel. I wanted to hang up my microphone. And Kevin said no. Kevin said, keep going, Jen. You've got this. And oh my God, I'm going to cry. And I did. Coaches need coaches, y'all. And working with Kevin has been one of the best experiences of my life. Oh my God, I'm crying. Kevin, you are the best. I could not do this without you. And thank you. Thank you for being you and the amazing human that you are.
So I think that should probably be one of the main focuses. My thought process is, if you were only going to do 3 things, right? If you were going to pick 3 things, one would be your podcast, the other one would be other podcasts, and the third would be posting on social media intentionally so you can create opportunities to connect. Not post and ghost. Not that. Not, well, I'm just going to repurpose content and whatever, I'll grow that way. No. Post on your story. See who's looking at it. When you post different types of content, you get different types of people that comment on it. So when I post fitness content, there are some people that will comment on that on my story that don't comment on anything else. When I post pictures of my wife and I, there's certain people that will message me that never message me. My cats, that podcast stuff, right? Guesting stuff, whatever it is, travel stuff, car stuff. Everybody has a different reason for following you. And this is why I'm so big on making your social media a personal brand as opposed to a podcast brand. And we can do a deeper episode on that at some point. But that's the thought today. There are so many things to do. If you're not doing a handful of them, or at least a few of them well, you're probably not going to see that great of results anywhere. I think fitness is a really good example. If you're kind of focused on eating and kind of focused on exercise and kind of focused on getting enough sleep, you're probably not going to recognize almost any results. If you're doing those 3 and then let's say you have a bunch of apps that tell you things about yourself and you're doing your blood glucose and all of that stuff. You're making sure you see the sun first thing in the morning and cold plunge and all that shit, pardon my French. You're not really going to see that great of results. But if you just did the first 3, if you really focused on your diet, you really focused on your sleep, and you really focused on your exercise, I guarantee you will see better results than if you do 10% of everything else. Guaranteed. So that is the thought in today's episode. There's 20% of effort that's going to get you 80% of the result. Now, I'm not saying it's only 20% of the work. I'm not saying it's only 20% of the grit or the perseverance or the resilience. It's 20% of things. It's 20% of activities. It's 20% of habits. There are certain habits that I track every day, and there are 3 to 5 that are the most important that I will never let slide. For me as a business owner, one of the 20% habits that brings 80% of the results is batching my WhatsApp every day. Every day I look at my WhatsApp. Now, Monday through Friday, there's a lot going on in WhatsApp. Saturday, it's a little bit slower. And then Sunday, there's usually not much. It's usually left over from Saturday. So it's not like I have to work 12 hours on Sunday, but I do batch my WhatsApp on Sunday morning, maybe while I'm charging my car or whatever I'm doing, just because I want to make sure that nothing has slipped through the cracks and kind of take it from there. That's a massive piece. And then obviously the podcast is one, right? So that's the big takeaway. If the too long didn't listen version is, if you're doing 15 things not well, you would probably be better off just doing 3 things much better. Does it feel like we're leaving stuff on the table? Yeah. Is there fear of missing out? Yeah. But honestly, until you can do it right, there is no reason to take on more. I think a lot of that's just ego and scarcity. A lot of that is just, I feel like I should be doing, I should be. I understand what we should focus on is doing a few things really well. And then when those get easier, sure, take on something else. But if you're going to overwhelm yourself to the point where you burn out and then you stop, that's not going to serve anybody. So one, I would say your podcast. The other one would be getting on other podcasts. And the third would be social media with the intention of creating conversations based on that. No post and ghost. Your show obviously creates the opportunity for you to add value to your audience and creates opportunities for calls to action, for self-identification. Other shows creates an opportunity to get access to a new audience or introduction to a new audience. And depending on what you do in the world and what your specialties are, you're talking to a podcast host who could be a collaborator, who could be a coach, a mentor, client, who knows? And then posting on social media is taking the value from one silo, which is podcasting, that's a silo, delivering it to another place, which is essentially another silo, with the hope that eventually there might be crossover. But more than anything, we are looking for somebody to raise their hand and say, hey, I listen to your podcast. Because when that happens, now you can really have intentional conversations. So that is my takeaway for today's episode. What else can we add? Is there anything else we could add? Maybe test it by doing an audit and write down all the things that you're currently doing. What are all the things that you're currently doing? Well, I prep for a guest. Okay, that's under the podcast. I send an email out. Okay. I have a blog. Okay. I have a Facebook group. Okay. I have a Substack. Okay. I do this. 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 Okay. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much progress and or momentum and or results have those things brought? You're probably going to see that there's a few of them that have brought the most. Now, this is dangerous because some of those things could bring you results eventually, but we have to focus on sustainability first. And then the idea is you double, triple, quadruple down on those. We had a team meeting, I don't know, it's hard. I'm losing track of time, maybe 8 months ago. And at the time, I think we had like 24 departments in our business. So we have the podcast, we have the Facebook group, we have group coaching, we have products, we have next level podcast solutions, next level social media, next level guest solutions, next level business solutions, just so much stuff. Live events, retreats, all this stuff. And we said, what are the things that we would go out of business without? And we highlighted those things. And I think it was like 8 things. So we went from 25 things we were focused on to 8. And then we said, we're going to do those 8 things really well. And I'm focused on doing 3 things really well. Alan's focused on doing 3 things really well. And that is now the flow. And it's interesting. We're way more successful than we've ever been. But it also feels like we're dropping a lot of the balls. So what we talk about all the time is we're all juggling. And some of the balls you're juggling are rubber, some are glass, and some are golden glass balls. The golden glass balls for me are the podcasts that we have. Next Level You, Podcast Growth You. I have to focus on these 8 episodes a week. Boom. Okay, cool. Next Level Podcast Solutions, which is we produce 60 some odd podcasts. That's a main one for me. And all the communication there is essentially through WhatsApp, right? That's a big one. And then social media. Those are my big 3. We have something called the Next Level Dreamliner. It's in my backpack. It's our daily journal. And we've been talking about revamping it. It just is not as big of a priority. So it keeps getting pushed. It'll keep getting pushed. People often talk about procrastination being a bad thing. Procrastination is a bad thing if you're procrastinating something that should be getting done. Procrastination is a great thing if you are procrastinating something that just is not time. It's not a priority. Don't procrastinate priorities, but you can procrastinate things that aren't priorities yet. That's the focus is what is the most important priority right now. So that's something we're going through as a business all the time. And I'm going through in my personal life all the time. And that has helped us level up for sure. Even though it feels bad at times, because it feels like you're leaving opportunity on the table, but you are picking up greater opportunity with that time, is the way I would explain it. All right, cool. All right, if you feel stuck in this, if you feel like you want to know the 3 things or the 5 things that you should be doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on, I'll have the link in the show notes for a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. Another thing that I don't know if a lot of people know this, I do one-on-one coaching. So yes, we have Next Level Podcast Solutions, which does podcast production and social media and all that stuff. But I also do one-on-one, either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly coaching. There's no contracts. You can cancel anytime. So if that's something you're interested, reach out, kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. It's really focused on what your goals are. I'll help you reverse engineer the habits, and we'll track those habits together. And yeah, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, whatever. So that's something that I know a lot of people don't necessarily know that I do. And then last thing, we have a Facebook group. If you are a podcaster, which you clearly are, who wants to get to the next level and you want to be around people who are podcasters like yourself, we have a podcast Facebook group. It is called Podcast Growth Nation. So we'd love to have you there. We'll have the link in the show notes as well. All right. I hope if you're overwhelmed, it's overwhelmed with opportunity, and I hope you are focused on the few things that bring you the best results. Easier said than done. It does feel hard to let go of things, but assuming you're grabbing on to things that are more valuable, that is the way to go. As always, keep on crushing it, keep on podcasting, and I will talk to you all next week.